Yes, what's going on, guys? We are back in the building. You know what time it is. Make sure you guys are always smashing the like, sharing, and subscribing to the damn channel. So, obviously, listen, look, a lot's been said about Liverpool going into next season. Obviously, we've just signed Florian Wirtz. We've got Jeremie Frimpong as well. And it looks like at the time of this video that we will also be getting in Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth. So that's left back, right back, and then the attacking midfield, left winger. I don't know what you call him at this current moment in time. But obviously, we're going to be taking a look at that and what a potential Liverpool 11 might look like. And also, as well, I felt like I needed to explain myself because a lot of I've been on Enza's stream. We've been talking about certain players and stuff like that. And again, like I said, I'm shooting this video on a Monday, so things can change by the time that this actually drops, right? But everybody's, talking about the team and what kind of team we should have going into next season, what kind of players, people want us to sign, whether it be another defender, an attacker, striker, etc., etc. Now, I'm not against really and truly many of these kind of options. I really don't mind. I feel that Liverpool do need to go out there and sign, an attacker because I do think that we're missing that kind of player anyway, in the team. I think that Liverpool are in a stage right now where I just think for me, and I can only speak for myself, for me, I feel like Liverpool needs something different. Like it's just like, okay, we don't have a problem scoring goals and things like that, but we just need something different. And obviously I don't know what's gonna happen with players like, Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo. We've only got Mo Salah to play right wing, Darwin Nunez, Diogo Jota, are they gonna leave? Like there are quite a lot of questions that still need to be answered in that regards. And then you've still got the defense. Obviously, Jarell Kwanzaa, he's now gone. He's now gone, obviously, to Bayern Leverkusen. So there's a slot that we're going to need to kind of fill. Is Joe Gomez going to stay? Does he mind staying as kind of just backup utility kind of guy? Maybe run out his contract at Liverpool. We haven't really, and it doesn't look like we're pushing him out. And I'm not seeing many suitors in for someone like Joe Gomez. So I'm also like, okay, cool. Maybe we keep someone like Joe, and we just need to sign one more defender, and then we can take stock later. Is Kanate going to stay? Is he going to go? What do you do with him? His contract's running out soon. There are a few things. Is Andrew Robertson going to like? There's a lot. I think that needs to be sorted out. Come the end of this transfer window anyway. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and obviously everyone's got their opinions, and I hear it. I actually do hear it. Liverpool have never been in this kind of space. We've just spent 100 odd million, 100 plus, sorry, on Florian Wirtz. We've then obviously getting in two fullbacks as well, but that's almost about round about give or take 200 million, just under obviously that we've spent. And it still seems like we've got not quite a bit, but a bit to do. We in my opinion, I feel like we do have a little bit still more we need to do in order for this team to be the elite team and squad that everybody keeps saying that we are in terms of Liverpool fans, right? Because it's all well and good, replacing this guy with that guy, or saying that this guy could be a bench player and all it. It's all well and good, right? But if you pick up one injury in one position, all of a sudden now, excuse me, all of a sudden it's now like, right, okay, well, clearly we're light in that area. So whether that be at centre back, because that's obviously the area that most people talk about, is that, Liverpool look relatively weak in at centre back. If Kanate gets his usual injury that he picks up every season and etc., Virgil in his age and things like that. We still don't talk about Connor Bradley being someone who's not at this moment in time is showing that he's not someone who can stay fit. So then what happens in that position? There's a lot to go through. So I'm going to show you a potential 11, right? It's going to be more, I guess, of players obviously that we've signed, and then the links that we've been linked to in terms of the players that we've been linked to. You guys, of course, in the comment section, let me know. I'm going to put this out as a premiere, so I'll be in the chat. We can chop it up. Let me know what you guys kind of think, in regards to this as well, because I do want to get everyone's opinion, because like I said, I felt like it was easier to do the video this way, because at least that way I can then get across exactly what I'm actually, trying to say, when we're talking about, the team and how I see the team. Now, again, I'm not saying that we've all got to see the team in the same way, by the way. Like, I'm not really into that kind of stuff. If you see the team one way, it really, truly, it doesn't matter. There's only one way, which is going to be Arne Slot's way. You know what I mean? So as long as that way works, then we're good. We're all going to have opinions. We're all going to have our preferences. It doesn't really matter. So these are the slots that I've obviously filled up at this current moment in time. Obviously, Alisson in goal, Frimpong and Kerkez in fullback, Konate, and then obviously Virgil. In the midfield, I've only put in McAllister. I feel like he is the guaranteed one in that position. So I'll put him in there. Obviously, Mo Salah, Florian Wirtz. Now, obviously, I've left 3 positions out. These are 3 areas of the pitch right now. When I look at it, as of today's date of the 23rd of June, I look at it and I say, Liverpool needs, in my opinion, to sign 3 players more in these areas. After that, it's then just about rotation players or if extra players leaving, etc. But these are the 3 slots, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So one player, obviously, we've been linked with for such a long time is obviously Isak. I've spoken about Isak already. I've said that for me, if you're going to sign a striker, for me, it needs to be Isak. And if it's not Isak, then I'd rather you just play with a false 9. So whether that's Florian Wirtz and then you put someone else in that position in the number 2, I don't really care. But I just don't see the benefit, in my opinion, going out to get someone like an Ekatike. Because the reality is he's not a finished article, which is fine. And I'm not even saying that even really Isak is, but Isak is as close to a finished article as you're going to get in this market, right? Gyökeres being the other one. So with Isak being so close to that, Ekatike, in my opinion, is down the other end where he's like, yeah, we're getting into it. We're getting into our stride. We're doing our thing, etc., etc. And again, that's fine. That would be good if we already had a number 9 in there, i.e., someone like Barcelona. It would be fantastic if they got in an Ekatike, because then you can say, okay, you ain't going to play that many games anyway. Yeah, I mean, because we've got the real bad man up front, which is obviously Lewandowski. But guess what? For a year, even if it's just 1 year, even if it's just a 1 year for you to kind of get acclimatized with the way our style of play and, you know, the pressures of playing for a team like Barcelona and etc. And you get to, I guess, somewhat learn. You're young enough where that shouldn't really matter at this stage, right? I'm good with that. And also, you just come. You know what I mean? You ain't a guy who's been here for so long, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and you've been banging up football and, you know, you're trying to make your next steps. You started really early. No, it's not that. You've literally just come. It's only really been this season I would call your breakout season, which again is absolutely fine. For me, Ekatike should actually stay. That's where I think he would get the best development. Stay at Frankfurt for 1 more season, show consistency first, and then you can demand the big money, the big move, and all of those kind of things, because then people can see that there is, you know, something real with you. At this moment, for me, and again, just my personal opinion, for me, I'm not really there yet with an Ekatike. At this moment, I'm kind of like, is he that good? Comps, yeah, look kind of decent. I'm a guy who I need to see 2 seasons of consistency before I can start putting you in whatever conversations. And if I want you in my team, yeah, I definitely see 2 seasons. I'm not going off 1 season. No way. No, he's not Lamine Yamal. He ain't that good. Do you know what I mean? He ain't Lionel Messi when he first come through. So I need to see that consistency, you know, before I think I would then deem you good enough to play for my own team. And again, that's just my personal opinion. You guys might like it. If you fucks with him, that's great. Listen, big up to yourselves. Like, I'm not trying to argue that point. I'm just talking my own opinion. I don't think he's that good. And I'd rather, if you're not going to get Ekatike, if you're not going to get Isak, should I say, sorry, then just leave it. Like, have your Jota there, sell Nunes if you want to, then go out and sign other players in different positions. Go out and sign a really bad boy midfielder. Midfield is a difficult area. Now, left wing, obviously, there's Diaz, there's Gakpo. I think Gakpo, I reckon whoever we sign anyway, so I'm going to put him in. Whoever we sign, I feel like Gakpo and Diaz, whichever one stays, by the way, I think one of them starts anyway, whoever we sign. So if you sign Malik Fofana, even if I know Bradley Barcola is not going to join anymore because PSG just come out to say that they're not going to sell him. But let's say it was him, even still, I still think Gakpo or Diaz would start the season, and then it will be a battle between the two. So I'm going to put Gakpo in there just for the time being. It could be Diaz. Again, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I don't care. For me, one has to go, though. And I'd rather you bring someone else in, like a Malik Fofana, because I just think that Gakpo, Diaz, they're kind of the same level at this moment in time. Can we get really good money for these players? Yes, I believe that we possibly can. So if that's the case, then I don't really see the big problem with, you know, potentially letting one of them go to get a player who's got a higher upside than both of them. Someone like a Malik Fofana, who I think has a bigger potential. Now, whether he fulfills that potential, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going to guess it. I don't know enough about Malik Fofana as an example to really give that kind of an educated guess. But yeah, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, when I watch Malik Fofana and I see what he's actually good at, I can see if you just continued at this kind of level, then yeah, I feel like you can just keep going and going and going. It's a bit like Bradley Barcola as well. Barcola obviously a bit further along than a Malik Fofana, but that's kind of the way that, I see them, in that kind of sense. But again, it's one of those, let's wait and see and then take it from there. Midfield. Now, obviously, you've got Gravenberch, you've got Szoboszlai, you've got Curtis Jones in there, right? I don't think we're going to sign a midfielder. So this is more, again, preference for me. I want us to sign a midfielder. I don't trust the midfield that we've got currently. You guys have heard me say this a million times anyway. I don't trust the midfield that we've got currently. I do think that Liverpool are lacking in the midfield area of a control setter, someone who can dictate tempo, someone who can get the ball from the centre backs, and it doesn't look like it's hot potatoes. I feel like other than Curtis Jones, and again, if we don't sign anyone, I'm good with Curtis Jones being in that position, but I'd rather you go out there and sign someone, whoever that may be. Now, there's players obviously that I would love us to sign, of course, the Pedris, the Vitinhas, but those are unrealistic, right? So I'm not looking at them, to be fair. I'm looking more like, why can't you go to Newcastle and try and pluck either Tonali or Bruno Guimaraes? Why can't we do that? Obviously, depends on if we're trying to also pluck Isak and Gordon and all these other kind of guys. But why can't we do that? They're better than the midfielders that we've got, in my personal opinion, anyway. So I'd much rather them, one of those two, come in. It could be Bruno Guimaraes, it could be Tonali. They would be able to come in to do that job. You've also got Adam Wharton as well. He's another player who I think is a really good player. If he comes in, I think Adam Wharton's really, really good. And I think he is tailored to the job that I'm looking for from that midfielder. So he would be better suited to the system, in my personal opinion. But I do think it would be a closer battle with him and Gravenberch, if that makes sense, in terms of who starts in games. Whereas Bruno Guimaraes comes in, he starts. Yeah, there is no Gravenberch. Unfortunately, young player of the year and all that. Yeah, that you're sitting on the bench back where you was, beforehand, and you just got to battle for your place, which is fine because obviously, clearly, he played too many games last season anyway. But we need that quality. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about in that kind of sense, right? So Bruno Guimaraes is my ideal kind of player to go in there. Tonali, again, is another one, but he's a bit more box to box, if I'm being perfectly honest. Guimaraes is really good at shielding the backline, but again, technical ability is really, is really up there. But in terms of links, I'll go with Adam Wharton just because that's the links that, we've obviously had. So that's obviously the links that we've kind of had. The reality is, I look at the team, and then obviously now you're looking at, who comes in, if this player doesn't play. So midfield straight away, you've still got Szoboszlai, you've still got Gravenberch, you've still got Curtis Jones. Absolutely fine. 3 of those players, I don't mind any of those 3 coming in at any points in the season, but the levels still remain at similar kind of levels, right? I don't really feel like there's actually a mad drop off at all, really and truly, if any of those 3 were to actually be replaced with either Wharton or McAllister. I feel like they're all of the same level. Speaking of the same level, before I even continue, that's actually one thing I really wanted to go on. I spoke about this on Enza's stream yesterday that he did. And I say yesterday, he did it this morning, but you guys are going to have seen it yesterday. And one of the things that we spoke about, and big up Savage as well, because he mentioned it, was about Manchester City. And everyone talks about how Manchester City can replace this and replace that. One of the things I always say with Man City, because they're a team I watch all the time, like I really fucks with what they do, the way that they play, etc. Manchester City have players on the same level anyway. They don't have there's not like an outlier like Virgil, for example, in their back line. We're just talking about defense, right? They don't have that outlier in that team. You know what I'm saying? Ruben Diaz would probably be the one, really and truly, but he's not Virgil level. So where you've got players like Nathan Ake, Akanji, John Stones, Vardio, now Kushinov, they're all similar levels. Now, granted, you might pick one player to be ahead of the other. It doesn't matter about which order that you actually put them in. But they're all kind of the same level. I'm looking at Liverpool and I'm like, the problem that you've almost got now is obviously you've got Virgil, and listen, it's a good problem to have. You got Virgil, so what do you do in that kind of area? Okay, that's probably why you've then let someone like a Jarell Konza go out. But that's probably the type of player you almost needed. You also need a manager who wants to rotate. Remember, Manchester City they will play with 4 centre backs at times. And when I say 4 centre backs, i.e., the back 4 is filled with 4 centre backs. Liverpool never do that and would never do that. I don't ever see a situation where he's going to put one of our centre backs left back, unless it's Joe Gomez, and then someone right back, and then the two. I just don't see that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's just not the way that if we've gone out to sign these 2 fullbacks, I don't even understand why you would then have it wouldn't make sense. Whereas Pep hasn't really done that. Pep has always had, I'm going to have all of these. Kyle Walker is probably the only like out and out fullback that I've got in the team. Vardio, Ake, Akanji, all of these guys, they're not fullbacks, but they can play in there and they can slot in those positions if need be. But then it helps for when they then become a 3 or a 2 at the back, because they can all fill in those central areas. So that's why I always feel like it's always a bit different. When people then mention about Mark Gay and this, I'm like, yeah, but again, and I've been saying this over the last few days, you guys said Konate is this good. If he's this good, Gay there's going to be a massive drop off then, right? Because you've had Gay at this level, like down here, and you've got Konate up here. If that's the case, that's too big of a drop off. You almost need Bastoni. Like that's the way I look at it, is then you're going to need Bastoni. I don't believe so, because I think Konate and Gay are not too different. I don't think Konate is that good, and I think he's been overrated by the Liverpool fan base, and I don't think that Gay has been rated enough. I think Gay's a really, really good defender, and I'll be more than comfortable with him coming into the team. So for me, it's actually not really an issue, and I don't mind him and Konate battling it out. But what I just didn't understand was so many people kept using Manchester City. I'm like, guys, you got to watch. Come on, they're in our league. You should know this by now. The players are of the same level. Again, even in the attack, when they had the Mahrez, the Sanes, the outside of Aguero, Sterling's and stuff like that, they're all the same level anyway. So you can just keep rotating. Unfortunately, we've got outliers in Virgil van Dijk. You've then got Mohamed Salah. So then the drop-off between them is going to be, that's natural. That's not a problem. But to me, the rest of the team isn't of that kind of level. So you should be getting in. You can get in players like that. I've got no problem with that. But, I digress. Anyways, so yeah, when I'm looking at that, as I mentioned before, Wharton is of the exact same level as a Gravenberch, to be honest. If not, I think a little bit better. But again, that's just splitting hairs more than anything else. Like if someone said Gravenberch is better than Wharton, I'm not arguing with that. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll be like, okay, fair. Do you know what I mean? I can see why you would say that, kind of thing. But Wharton is a good level for me. It is, like I said, Gakpo and Diaz, they're the exact same level. So again, that rotation on that side, I'm not going to be too fast. And then look at the rest of the team. Bradley obviously coming in for Frimpong. I don't know who the cover left back is going to be. I don't know if both Robbo and Tsimikas are going to leave. So we'd have to look at that kind of area. It is really just the centre back position. What do you kind of do? Obviously, goalkeeper, we've got Mamadashvili anyway. Right winger, we need to sort that position out again. Is Chiesa staying? Is he going? What do you do in these kind of situations? That's why I feel like we need to get another attacker in anyway. Because I'm like, unless Chiesa is going to stay, or unless he's going to use Rio, which I don't feel like he's going to do. So, yeah, I'm still there's still a bit more to do. But so far, the team, in my opinion, I look at this team, if this was the team that started the season, I'd be relatively confident that at the bare minimum, I think Liverpool, even right now, as of today's date anyway, I think Liverpool are finishing third anyway. Like in terms of that's a bare minimum. Any lower than that, then you've completely failed. You'd have to win every cup competition just for it to make it, a good season, so to speak. At this moment, that's the bare minimum. If I look at this team come the beginning of the season, I'm saying, this team is challenging second and first. Few more tweaks, potentially, or not even a few more tweaks, just maybe, again, personal preference, depending on if it stays like this, then I'm saying, yeah, first or second. I look at that team, just the 11, obviously, forget about the rest of it, but just in terms of the first 11. Then you're looking at the Mark Gay's potentially coming in, or another centre-back, I think, is potentially going to come in. Maybe a Hato. Ganové, people always talk about him. Left-back, I think, depending on what happens with Robbo and Tsimikas, we're going to need to sign a left-back, in that kind of position. Right wing, we need to sort that out. Striker, are we keeping Jota? Are we not keeping Jota? It's really only the midfield, I think, which is crazy because I don't even rate the midfield that much, but it's the midfield is the only area that I look at and think you've got enough there. If you added one more body, that's more than enough now. Like you have the midfielders there. You don't need to necessarily worry about that position. You still got Stefan Bajcetic. You've still got Trey in there as well. So you've got enough to be able to handle an injury problem if it was to come around, kind of, unless it's like a mad, injury crisis in itself. So, yeah, midfield's calm. It really is just more right wing, again, striker, depending on what we do with a Diogo Jota. Centre backs, obviously, depending again what we do, and then left back. So left back, centre back, right wing. Left back, centre back, right wing. So 3 more positions. So yeah, like I said, that's just depending on if we sign someone like an Adam Wharton. We've already got in, obviously, Florian Wirtz. Milos Kerkez is going to be done soon. We get in Isak as well. I feel like this is a good enough team to kind of go into the season. And like I said, one of the main things for Liverpool, for me, is you need to start learning how to like control games better. Like, and I don't know if that's just a tactical thing or it's a player thing. I'm using a player thing because I've watched now Arne Slot for a full season, and I'm like, okay, well, the reality is this, right? The way that you're playing is almost like a mix of Jurgen Klopp and yourself. Does that mean that next season it's now going to fully be yourself because you're getting in your players? Like I said, I trust Slot. I've said it from the jump. I like Slot and I trust him enough that once he gets his own players in certain positions, I think we're going to see something different. Zubimendi was the beginning of that. Go back to that. Not Zubimendi specifically, but go back to that. I want to see what that looks like. I think that cooks and we finally start playing good football. Because what started happening towards the back end of last season is the football is absolutely boring to watch. It's awful at times. But we have like sprinkle of moments, random moments in games. And you're like, oh, okay, this looks good. And then we go back to it just being awful. And I don't know if Enz or Savage or Jerry or someone mentioned this before. It's like Slot gave the players instructions, and as dumb as this is going to sound, they literally followed it to a T. Like they didn't have no other freedom of mind to know that if the manager says run straight, for example, make sure you always run straight. So, but a situation happens and you might need to maybe just swerve to the right. No, they'll just keep running straight because the manager said. It's almost like they just kept doing that. And I was like, guys, I know the manager's asking you to do this, but you can do a little swerve here and there. Like you don't have to, he's not saying follow it like to a TT. He's just saying follow it, but obviously, add your own kind of spice to it. Yeah, I mean, he's just giving you the ingredients. You might add your own little piece of flavor in there. And that's what Liverpool were last season for me, was so flavorless, like in terms of the way that we were playing. But I have this, I don't know what it is, and it might just be my trust in Slot. The first 3 games of the season, I did see something. I saw, okay, I can see what you're kind of trying to do. I ain't really seen it since. Like, I'll be honest with you. It's only really been those 3 games. And like I said, sprinkle of games randomly. Like, I'll probably say maybe all together in the season, maybe like those like 5, 6 games of the whole season where you could say, Liverpool played really, really well. The rest, I was like, meh. Yeah, I mean, probably should have lost quite a lot of those games, in my opinion, against lower level opposition, but we didn't. But listen, that's neither here, or there anyway. But that's the kind of team that I'm kind of looking at. And again, this is just more in terms of the links that the players that we've actually been linked to in terms of like the Adam Whartons. I would love a Bruno Guimaraes. I would love, someone of that kind of ilk, Hector Tonali. I would like to have, in the team. And I think Alex Baena from Villarreal, I believe, is already gone to Atletico Madrid. If he isn't, I would look at someone like him. I know he plays on the left-hand side as a left winger, but I wouldn't mind using him on my left wing potentially. Just something a bit different. I just don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like the team just has no culture. Like, there's no real culture in the team. Like, it just looks like it's very basic at what it does. And when you're good at the basics, I guess it can just kind of work. And I'm not just trying to moan for moaning's sakes, right? It is like you watch other, like there's a reason why a PSG looks far better than you. Like there's just a reason why a Barcelona looks far better than you. They're gonna look better than you purely because there's a bit of culture within their team. I just think Liverpool lack that. Now, again, like I said, I don't know if that's just because he hasn't been able to get in his players and maybe we're now going to start seeing it. But when I watch the team, and I've watched teams, again, you're talking about, I've watched football for the last, 25, 28 years or whatever it is, right? When I've watched teams that dominate, bar Manchester United, and even they had to start getting in a bit of culture towards like the latter years of Sir Alex Ferguson, bar them, every team I've watched that's like been the best team for a period of time, they've got that little bit of culture in the team. Like they've got that midfield. To be fair, it is usually midfield. They've just every team I know, Real Madrid, Barcelona, old school Chelsea, this Barcelona, PSG now. Like when I watch Manchester City, when I watch them, I'm like, they've got that midfielder. It might not be the best midfielder that you think is in the team. So I'm not even talking about KDB at Manchester City. I'm saying, remember when they had David Silva, or when they had Bernardo, or they've got Bernardo Silva in there, or a KDB, or a Rodri. Culture. Do you know, like I'm watching Barcelona with the Pedris and the De Jongs. I'm watching PSG with the Vitinhas and the Joao Neves and the Fabian Ruiz. These are not like some of these players. I'm not talking about these men are not like world class. I'm not even putting Fabian Ruiz as world class. I wouldn't call him that. Joao Neves, I don't think he's world class. I don't even think Vitinha is world class. I don't even think they're world class. And that's my point. Is I'm not even looking for that world class. I'm just like, bro, bring a bit of culture. I beg, just a little bit of culture. Do you get what I'm saying? Bring that kind of player who can knit things together for us, make us look better, and help us to sustain the period of dominance. At this moment in time, I don't look at the team and think that. But again, that's just based off of, right now. Obviously, we've got in Wirtz, right? This is what Wirtz is going to bring for Liverpool. Listen, Wirtz is a really good player. Wirtz is a really, really, really good player. I mean, these are his rankings, I believe, from last season. Obviously, in goals, he was placed in 17th in the league. Assists second. Successful dribbles first. Shots on target third. Successful forward passes, he was fifth. I'd love to see who was at, who was the rest in there. But listen, man, Wirtz is a very, very good, very, very good player. I'm intrigued to see where Wirtz is going to necessarily play. That's something that it's something that I think about quite a lot when I think about someone like Florian Wirtz. Obviously, you've got here, obviously taking a look, obviously these are his goals over the last couple of seasons. You can see where he's getting most of his goals. Look at that. I mean, I'm seeing quite a lot, like if the goals are obviously in the red circles, bar 1, 2, 3, 4. That one looks on the edge, but I'm going to say 4. I'm seeing 4 goals outside of the box. So most of his goals are inside the box anyway. That's someone who's playing further forward. Do you know what I mean? In terms of getting himself the goals. Assists. Has he got more inside, outside? Looks like he's got more No, inside actually, to be fair. I don't know. It looks kind of even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 on the outside. Then I can only see about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So he's getting quite a lot inside the box. Again, that's where I expect him to play, though. That's where I feel like you'll get the best from kind of a Florian Wirtz is get him closer to goal. Whether you sign a striker or don't sign a striker, but just get Florian Wirtz closer to goal. Because I think if you get a Florian Wirtz closer to goal, you get a better player. As opposed to, I'm not saying he's not going to, obviously he's going to come every now and again. He's going to pick up the ball and, do this and do that and all that kind of stuff. I do fully get that. But I do look at him and think, nah, this is a guy that you probably want closer to the goal. This, like, you want to get your midfielder, your player, your dictator, your Pedri, to give the ball to that number 10. That number 10 being Florian Wirtz. Pedri gives the ball to Dani Olmo. He threads those passes in. Olmo drops in. You still got the striker who stays in the box. This is literally what happens in Barcelona. You still got the striker who, like Lewandowski, who stays in and around the box, does his little movement, etc. Dani Olmo will drop in. Pedri's either going to fire that ball into Dani Olmo, or guess what? Lamine Yamal, Rafinha are running on the outsides. Now you've opened up space. There's a gap in. That's what I want to see. That's what I think he's going to necessarily bring anyway. When I'm looking, at someone like Florian Wirtz again. This is where most of his football is being played. Kind of on the left, but let's say left central. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not here. It's not back here. Like, I don't want him picking up the ball from the centre backs anyway. Like, what are you doing? So if you're picking up the ball from the centre backs, who's there? Who's my man giving the ball to? I don't need Dani Olmo picking the ball up from Kabasi and that. It doesn't even make sense. Do you know what I mean? It actually doesn't even make sense. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And look, again, possession 1 in the final third, 1.25. He's the top one. Get this guy closer to goal, man. Whether it's left or right, I don't really know. It's obviously stats in comparison to Kevin De Bruyne. Whether you put him left or right, I don't really care about that. That's not really gonna. I don't feel like that makes too much of a difference, because if you put him on the left-hand side, he cuts in. someone like Kerkez will provide the width. And I know we had this conversation on Enza stream, but I don't think it's going to be literally Kerkez has to use up. No, Florian Wirtz will obviously be on the left-hand side. It's more when we're in possession. He's going to come infield and then provide the width. When we're out of possession, obviously you stay in your side kind of thing, and then you take it from there. But again, like and this is what I was trying to explain to everybody. This is Florian Wirtz from last season, right? He plays his game on the left-hand side. He plays in the middle as well, but the majority of his game is at left wing / left attacking midfield, which is exactly what he is. So that's where I'm looking at him to necessarily play anyway, is that obviously I don't know how Liverpool are going to set up, because I don't know, are we going to go to 3 at the back? Are we going to use is it going to be a 4-2-3-1? I know I put that formation there, but is it going to be 4-2-3-1? Are we just going to go 4-3-3? I don't know how it works, because I'm trying to figure out where would you, if you play 4-3-3, does that mean that Florian Wirtz has to be a left central midfielder? In my head, I don't know how it works. I really don't know. So I would be very intrigued to see how it works with a Florian Wirtz, and what we kind of do really and truly when it comes to that kind of side of the game, because I do think that side is going to be very interesting, but also important for Liverpool. Is getting that right. Liverpool have a knack of getting players and getting them to do different things. Let's stop doing that. This guy is a bad boy in his position. Play him in said position, and then work everything else, in and around that. And again, talking about what I'm mentioning, with Florian Wirtz coming in again. So you can see here, this is Milos Kerkez down that left-hand side. He's going to provide that width. This is his touches from last season. He's basically playing left wing anyway, or left midfield, if you want to call it that. He'll be fine. I feel like everyone kind of thought, is thinking that Florian Wirtz can't play that side. I feel like, he probably, in our system, he'd probably be more suited to that. I don't think our system suits currently having a number 10, unless your midfielders are better than what they are currently. And obviously, this is just in regards to Milos Kerkez and his genuine ability to, help with the sprints and stuff like that. You can see Kerkez recorded the 4th most sprints in the Premier League. 845 behind Munoz, Anthony Robinson, and Brian Mbeumo. Actually, quite surprised Brian Mbeumo is up there. But this is what I'm saying. And Munoz is a fantastic defender. I genuinely believe that that's how someone like Slot might potentially. Again, I'm not saying he's not going to use Slot. He's not going to use Wirtz in the number 10. But it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up on that left-hand side. It just wouldn't surprise me, at all. And you can see, look, this is Milos Kerkez, open play crosses. Down that side. Yeah. Like I like Kerkez. Overlapping runs, underlapping runs. Yeah, I think for me, I feel like if you're gonna have a Kerkez, you can't just have a winger. Like it for me, it just doesn't make sense. Like I feel like you're gonna need to have someone who's literally like an inside forward, who's basically acting like a second striker almost. And I feel like Wirtz for me fits that better than anybody else. But listen, I'm not trying to. I know people get their feelings hurt when you mention Diaz and Gakpo and, how can you let these guys go? I just think it just makes more sense, because prime example, on the other side, you got Frimpong. Now, Frimpong is a wing back / right winger, but I'm going to assume we're going to play him at right back, right? This is most of his areas. Frimpong is also another one, like Kerkez, they're going to be up and down anyway, that side. But they can hold that width. If they hold that width, Frimpong is calm because Salah cuts in anyway. Salah will play infield regardless. Salah wants to be closer to the goal. So I'm almost saying Liverpool should almost have like 3 strikers. Have 3 strikers when we're in possession. But have the 3 strikers as like a left forward, right forward, if you guys remember positions. Left forward, right forward, and then your centre forward. Have that. Because then I feel like once you've kind of got that, the width is already being provided by your fullbacks. It's only when we then rest defense, or when we are defending, that's when everybody goes back into their kind of natural quote unquote positions, that you right back and all of that kind of stuff. But you can see Frimpong already. This is a player who wants to be playing further up the pitch anyway. Do you get what I'm trying to say? This is Frimpong's game. That's why, again, another signing where I'm like, okay, let's see how this works. Not saying none of it won't work, but So far, the only player that we've, if you count Milos Kerkez, that we've signed out of the three that I'm confident I know what he's going to do is Milos Kerkez. The other two, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what Frimpong is going to bring in terms of what does that look like for Liverpool in at right back. Florian Wirtz, kind of the same thing. What do you look like in a Liverpool team? And again, it's exciting because of course you get these players in and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just more intrigued about, so how does this fit? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does this work now? Like, is he going to play here? Is he going to play there? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? If he does this, does that mean that we take away from what he's actually really good at? A lot of questions, man. A lot of questions. But listen, I'm excited enough to see how this is all gonna, kind of pan out, for Liverpool kind of going forward. But like I said, man, let's just wait and see, and then we'll take it from there. But look, this is just Frimpong stats and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, listen, we already know, and like I said, I felt like I needed to more explain myself in terms of just more so that I just want people to have a better understanding. You know what I mean? I don't want you to feel like it's moaning for moaning's sake, because I don't want it to be that. It's more, no, there's a reason why. Like, if we're just talking about football in general, football hasn't changed in terms of what's going to make teams good. And I feel like there's certain components that you need in order for those kind of things to happen. Obviously, you also need a bit of luck, but I do think there are certain components as to the reason why certain teams will always be the certain team. Why Manchester City can go 4 in a row. Why Bayern Munich are who they are in their league. Obviously, they take all the best players as well, but they've got really, really good players within, those kind of teams. Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG. Like, there's a reason I feel like these kind of teams are who they are. Chelsea, old school, as I mentioned. Like, they have these kind of players within their team that make you go at the beginning of a season, I'm confident. Manchester City are not sitting there saying, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, maybe we can battle. What do we mean, maybe we can battle? No, we believe it. Obviously, it's a bit different for them. You've got the best manager in the world. You won 4 in a row. Like, you're going to have that kind of arrogance anyway. I get that. But when I'm looking at all the other teams, there's a reason why it's like, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. Because the reality is we're just not there yet. Now, if we start the season or we end the season, Liverpool go back to back as an example, then you can start thinking, now we're there now. We're finally there. We're in that kind of position where we can go into a season and it's not even about we want to challenge. It's now we are going to win. If you win or don't win, it doesn't really matter. But that's the kind of energy. At the moment, I don't think Liverpool are there yet. I think it's more we're going to challenge and then we'll see what happens after that. Whereas Manchester City, I feel, just because of who they are, they'll always go into it, yeah, we're going to win. And I'm not saying that we can't change mindsets. Mindsets can only change by winning. Ultimately, it's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Like, you can only change the mindset if you win. So until you win, it's one of those, kind of thing. So you can have the belief, obviously, and you're going to have the mindset of, yeah, we think we're good enough to do. But the reality is, when you've already done it one time, it's like, oh, okay, like, how do we get to the next time? And again, it's built up by many, many different things, but that's the manager stuff. I'm more just looking at the players. And as a fan, I'm trying to look at it and think, how do I see it? And again, this is kind of obviously how I kind of see things. But listen, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section. I've been speaking to myself for quite some time anyway. I just want to know how everybody kind of sees things. What kind of players are you guys looking to kind of sign moving forward? Do you think the Liverpool 11, in whatever mock-ups that you guys have seen with the players that we've been linked, do you guys think the rest of the Premier League would be that scared of and Europe as well? Do you think that they would be scared of that 11, looking at it on the face of it? Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section. I'll catch you guys very, very soon. I will do an actual live, so you guys, we can just chop it up a bit more. Maybe once we sign Milos Kerkez, then we can really start looking at, maybe the way Liverpool might potentially play moving forward. And yeah. So listen, there's going to be a lot to chop up.